Pseudocode and Flowcharts. Pseudocode is a way to express an algorithm in plain English and is structured in a similar way to a programming language. Here is an example. The system should begin by asking the user how far they would like to travel. The command word is written in capitals, in this case, input, and then the question to be asked follows. The user input is then stored in a variable. In this case, the variable is called distance. The symbol for assigning a variable in pseudocode is an arrow pointing to the left. Think of it as stating you want the thing on the right, in this case, the user input, stored to the thing I am pointing to, in this case, the variable name. Next, the system will need to do something with the stored information using selection. In this example, it will look at what has been entered and use the relational operator, in this case, less than, to decide which path to take. If the if statement is true, it will continue on the first indented line. If the if statement is false, it will skip the first indented line and complete whatever is indented after the else. The complete system. The user will be asked how far they are traveling and the number they type will be stored in the variable distance. If they type 0, the system will state that they must enter a number more than 0, and end. If they type a number more than 0, the system will multiply their number by 3, store this in the new variable, charge, and then output the cost for the trip, and end. A flowchart is another way to express an algorithm. They are structured using different shapes. The information within the shapes is usually written using pseudocode. You will need to remember and use the correct shapes. These are the shapes commonly used when creating a flowchart: an oval, a rectangle, a parallelogram, and a diamond. These shapes are used to represent the different parts of the system. An oval shows the start or end of the system. A rectangle represents a process. Think of this as the part of the system you don't see happening, such as storing a value to a variable. A parallelogram represents an input or output, which is the part that will display to the user as a message or as a question. A diamond is used to represent selection, which is where the system will decide which path it should take. This is an example of how to create a flowchart using the same taxi fare system from earlier. This time you need to show the start using the oval at the top. Next, you use a line with an arrowhead which shows the direction of flow. This leads to a parallelogram which is labeled as input and includes the question to be asked. Next is the process rectangle that shows the variable being stored. This then leads to a diamond, ready to select the correct path depending on what the user has input. In this example, you can see the lines are labeled with yes and no. This is important as it shows the correct path to follow depending on the input. You will also see in this flowchart, it shows a loop taking the user back to the input if they enter 0. This was not a feature of the earlier pseudocode. As with the earlier example, the user's input, if more than 0, is multiplied by 3 and stored in the variable, charge. It is then output to show the user the cost of their trip, and then the program ends.